Hello, welcome to today's presentation of operating systems and firewalls. An operating systems is the most vital piece of component that runs computers. Pretty much operating systems can manage the computer's memory, storage, and processors. It will also allocate resources. It can manage the input and output of hardware, as also it handles the liaison of between users and hardware, such as using a GUI or a command line interface. Operating systems will also be able to utilize this firewalls and IDPs. And since it's so vital to have an operating system, a computer is useless when it cannot communicate with this computer if it doesn't have an operating system. Ways of hardening your operating systems. It's always important to have an up-to-date version of your operating system, because if it's not up to date and it's not, in its latest version, then there's definitely could be some vulnerabilities, loopholes, or ways where it can cause an open detection of security problems, since it's not updated. Um, it's important to install antivirus or virus protection software. A lot of people use Bitdefender. Windows comes with Window Defender, so those things are really important to have in your operating system. Also, it's important to make sure the patches are installed. Install any type of patches that are needed for your operating system, and always get in the habit to regularly, update your operating system. Windows servers are important to use. They help improve access controls. As I said earlier, they're used as well as Windows Defender, which can be a great software tool that protects you from viruses. It will control the flow guard on how applications can execute its code. And it has a virtual encryption use, and also find ways to use threat detection. Linux, since it's an open source, it can quickly patch flaws in the system, so it's important to always, up to date and find any type of loopholes or vulnerabilities. You can always find ways to patch them, so it's always good to make sure you're always constantly up to date on your using your Linux system. And it's also being able to access the root SSH remotely and disabling it. Then we also have its ways of baselining. Also, ways to harden it is the use of strong passwords. Never save them in plain text or notes. Just always have a good way of like an NIT process of just using strong passwords. Also, backups are important when you're using your operating systems, to always just have backups. So in case if something happens, you can always back up your system and make sure everything's back to what it was. There is also the involvement of NTP configuration. It also utilizes firewalls. And another important thing is to make sure that there's no open ports, to always close them. And also the way it can use its way to configure group authentications and the use of access controls correctly. Now we have firewalls. Firewalls are very important. They pretty much provide a type of network where it protects the network by allowing the traffic that's coming into the network to either go through or block them, having a set of protocols and rules to inspect incoming packets, and it'll make sure if it's, any type of packets from its rules that will allow it to go through. It's typically installed in Windows. It can be a software or hardware with combining routers and using routers or firewall devices. Firewalls can use a deep packet inspection system where it uses certain protocols to set triggers or alarms when inspecting packets that can be either good or bad in the network. There's many types of firewalls. The three types that mostly I notice are the packet filters, the stateful, stateless, and the proxy server firewalls. Ways of hardening firewalls, and as we continue talking about it, they again administer the incoming traffic with a set of rules that's programmed in the unit with the rules it follows. It enforces restrictions in ACL for the use of addresses. It'll also execute its orders. Firewalls protects firewall protocols are specific in the range and the addresses that it's set to analyze and its desired action on what to do. It also uses logs, files, and can record attempted intrusions. Firewalls import to avoid old or out-of-date protocols that is uninsecure in things like Telnet, HTTP, and FTP. And also it's really important to always update and use the latest versions of firewalls so you can keep track of any changes or change in a set of rules for its actions. Thank you very much.